Some coffee's fast, but not fresh. Some coffee's fresh, but only after a long wait. Speedway coffee is made fresh at the push of a button, hot or iced, so you can have fresh coffee your way, right away. Find a store near you at speedway.com/locations.
When you join Saia LTL Freight, you belong to something bigger from day one. Whether you live for the long haul, the city route, or working the docks, we have a job for you. Join the most elite team in the business. Best-in-class benefits, signing bonuses, and a first-rate commitment to safety. To start your journey with us, go to workatsaia.com. That's workatsaia.com.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Ethos DFS Today podcast. I am your host, Mike Apatra, joined by my good buddy, Haaris Kermani. It's a wonderful Thursday. It's December 9th. We got a light day, Harris. We only got 3 games to talk about, but coming off of a big 13-game banger, it's good to have one of these little quiet days. But how's your week going?
Week ain't going so bad. Can't complain about that. Fantasy team's looking good, but as a Raptors fan, it's not going too nicely today, taking a bad loss. And for whoever is a Raptors fan, that ending was just like Brooklyn Game 7. Freddie got hit in the face going in for a clear shot. Should have had the foul to end the game, but did not. And we take a 1-point loss to OKC, which is just very, very annoying on a personal level. But great game, though. Shouldn't have had to make the comeback we did, but yeah, it was there.
Well, you could be a Mavericks fan, man. At least, I wouldn't say you didn't have as much hopes coming into the season after losing Lowry. I mean, you probably still had good hopes. Siakam hurt at the beginning of the year and a lot of things that, just weren't going right for the Raptors, I guess, early on. But I lost all hopes, man. I'm just trying to enjoy what I can of the season. But this Mavericks team is pitiful. It doesn't help when you absolutely hate your head coach. Like, I wasn't a fan of the whole Jason Kidd signing to begin with. I'm just ready to move on at this point. Move on with the coach. Can't even trade. Everyone's getting excited thinking their team could trade for Miles Turner. I know we have no shot. We have nothing to trade. It's just it's pitiful. But that's why we look to DFS, man. When you just go through misery, you can look forward to building a couple lineups and stuff like that and root for other players. So that's what I'm looking forward to. A nice little 3-game slate. We're gonna jump into everything, but before we do, quick shout out, guys. Come prop up on Thrive Fantasy. You guys already heard us mention it a few times now. Thrive Fantasy, the newest sponsor of this show, and the one that we all love, because I think we were just talking before we got on air. You were a Thrive Fantasy player well before we got this as a sponsor. Santino and I were the same. Thrive Fantasy is daily fantasy and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. So you choose 10 of 20 available prop player bets and build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and under based on how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props, rack up the most points, and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive has over 50,000 in guaranteed prizes weekly for NBA alone and has awarded over $6 million thus far. Use promo code ETHOS when you sign up, and you receive 100% instant first deposit match on up to $100. So head over to your App Store or your Play Store. Download Thrive Fantasy by visiting their website at www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop today and prop with us. So we're going to be adding that new segment to a lot of our shows where we're going to be giving out our favorite Thrive Fantasy prop for the very next day. So tune in right after our player tier segment. You will get that. But we have 3 games to talk about, my friend. The first one with no injury report yet, because it's a back-to-back for both of these teams. It's going to be Utah traveling to Philadelphia, taking on the 76ers. So just going to throw it out there. Little foreshadowing here. My prop bet might be in this game. As far as a game total and a spread, we're not going to have that. In fact, right now we only have 1 game total. So we're going to skip over that. We're going to have to keep an eye on that news, but no injury report, as we know with this Utah team, they're pretty much fully healthy outside of Hassan Whiteside, who missed, I believe, the past 2 games. So something to keep an eye on for him. And then for Philadelphia, Ben Simmons continues to be out. Outside of that, they should be fully ready to go. Although I did notice Joel Embiid was riding the bike near the tunnel at some point tonight. So back-to-back, keep an eye on Joel Embiid's health. So that's we'll start off with Utah, man. I'll pass it on to you. What are you looking at for this Jazz team on the second half of the back-to-back?
Yeah, and as you said, coming off a 13-game night, you're going to have a lot of these back-to-backs, and it's just one of those things where you got to really look at who is going to be able to run out there and keep that level of gas all the way going. And on the Utah side, I mean, Rudy Gobert had an absolutely monstrous game the first time around against Philly, but Joel Embiid was not there in that. That being said, the price tag is just one of those that's just really enticing for me. Any of those close games where you can expect Rudy Gobert to be able to play somewhere in the mid to high 30s, he's more than likely going to be able to pay off his numbers just on his rebounds and the couple of blocks that he'll get. If he gets his offense going on a couple of those lobs that he's got going tonight, for instance, against I forgot who they're playing right now. But yes, the lobs that he's got going today, it's just one of those games.
They're playing Minnesota.
Yes. Yeah, so it's just one of those things where I like him in that matchup. He's definitely going to be playing high 30s as far as his minutes are concerned, and he's likely, just given everything else on the slate, my favorite big from a price to performance ratio. So I'm looking at him today. And then after that, honestly, with these Utah games against Philly, they often find themselves going a little bit deeper into their bench to really try to get that shot going. And Jordan Clarkson at his current price tag is in a pretty enticing spot for me. I mean, he's down into that 4,000 range now. Hasn't been playing super well, but this is just a good bounce back spot for him. Philly gives you the opportunity to be able to chuck up a lot of threes. You saw even today against the Hornets, they break down a lot on the perimeter. So I expect Jordan Clarkson to be able to get that opportunity, put up big buckets, and get himself really going, because he's just been sitting in that like mid to low 20 minutes range purely because his shot is off. And for 4,900, that's a GPP pivot I'm looking to take. And then it's all about whether you believe in Donovan Mitchell at that price tag. I think I like some of the later options at that mid to late 8,000s to early 9,000s more so than Donovan Mitchell, but you can never go wrong with him at 8,800. He can easily pay it off if he has a good night.
Yeah, again, not much I'm going to disagree with there. I don't know if Gobert is, if we do see Embiid sits out, I think he probably will be my favorite center. He's definitely in play. He's the mid-tier option. I have a low-tier option. I have a mid-tier, and I'm never going to argue against Jokic once we get to him as well, who's also on a back-to-back, so it's worth noting that as well. But I'm with you. I do like me some Gobert. I want to keep an eye also on Mike Conley, because I didn't mention that at the top, though. It is back-to-back, and there's a decent chance he sits out of this one if that were to happen. Clarkson, Ingles, both those guys become absolutely fantastic plays. I think Ingles and Clarkson are probably both in play either way. But I think, once we see, or if we see Mike Conley rolled out, he becomes pretty close to a must play. And then it's a back-to-back for the veteran Rudy Gay, but he's been playing decent minutes. As long as Rudy Gay is playing, 15 to 20 minutes, he can pay off a $3,900 salary. And it's only a 3-game slate, so we're going to be looking for some value. So those are the main guys I'm looking at. I'm kind of with you. I do think there's some other options I prefer over Mitchell, but when it's all said and done, I everybody pretty much outside of Mike Conley and Bogdanovich are going to be in play for me. On the Philly side of the ball, not going to Joel Embiid in this matchup. Hint, hint, foreshadow, player prop. Just not targeting Rudy Gobert, not targeting with a back-to-back. There's 11K. I'd rather pay up for Jokic. There's just a lot of reasons why I just do not want to play Joel Embiid. Even as a pivot, I get it, low ownership, the whole 9 to go with it. I'm just not doing it. Tyrese Maxey, this will be his second game back after missing with that illness. Looked a little rough around the edges in today's game, and that's a fantastic matchup. This is not such a good matchup, so don't think I'll be going to Maxey. I'm really just going to be looking at some of these ancillary options. I really just don't even want Tobias Harris for the most part. He'd probably be the one spend up on this team I can, take. But for me, it's really just going to be spending down, I guess, on a guy like Danny Green. Maybe you're dating some value with a guy like Georges Niang. But that's probably the only real 2 options I'm looking at. Just really not enticed by this Philly team at all. I don't know if you have anything else to add to it, but that's just kind of my take. Turning a 3-game slate into a 2 is probably the route I'm going to go.
Fair enough. And
what you want is sometimes far from what you get. At Harry Ritchie's, we want you to get the heart-stopping, high-fiving diamond gift you want and pay for it the way you want. Our in-house financing lets you make payments that fit your budget and your life. Plus, at Harry Ritchie's, our jewelry is priced at an everyday, real price. That means you get all of the dazzle with none of the haggling. More boom for your buck. Now open at Clackamas Promenade. Harry Ritchie's, truly you.
You probably already like browsing Zillow for fun, but did you know that Zillow actually makes it easy to find a new home? With Zillow, you see the most listings of any real estate site, and they're updated every 5 minutes, so you don't have to worry about missing out on the one. Plus, take virtual tours from the comfort of your couch, so you know what to expect before you see it in person. And if that didn't simplify the process enough, Zillow also connects you with local agents. So when you're ready for a new home, find it on Zillow.com.
This is likely going to be one of those not as high scoring, but it's a grimy, gritty game all the way through. But just watching a lot of the Philly game today, I really liked, as you said, Tyrese Maxey looked a little bit out of it. So they had Seth Curry running a lot more of the offense. And I mean, he had a great game today, and it's just one of those where if he gets on a streak, you'll often find that he has a couple of games where he gets his shot going. And outside of that Charlotte game prior, where he had an off one, he'd been paying off that 5,000 for 3 games straight. And I like 5,600 being a pretty good price tag given the low amount of slates or the low amount of people that I truly trust in that middle price tag. So honestly, he was the only guy I had really circled, and I kind of have a feeling Embiid is either going to be limited or not in this. So I've got Drummond just there sitting on the side, but of course that's just going to be chalk if he happens to sit out.
Yeah, and it's just chalk that you eat. Even in a tough matchup like this, if we know Drummond's playing 28 minutes at 5,200, he doesn't need to do much. All right, we'll move on to the next game. L.A. Lakers traveling to Memphis. They are taking on the Grizzlies in this one. The game that we do have a game total in the spread for, 221 game total. Lakers favored by only 2.5 points. Trevor Ariza is still out. Anthony Davis, LeBron, both probable. And then Kendrick Nunn probably won't be back until at least January is what we're seeing. So we know that he is out as well. I'll pass it over to you. And you know what? I'm going to let you talk about Memphis because I know you're dying to. We all know. We all know why. So I'll take the Lakers here. Definitely some decent spots to spend up on this Lakers team. I mean, if you're not spending up on Jokic, you're probably spending up on one of these studs. In my opinion, it's probably not going to be Russell Westbrook. He's playing well, don't get me wrong, but when all these guys are healthy, he really struggles to pay off that big salary. He needs to be more of that low 9 range in order for me to consider him if LeBron and Davis are both healthy. If I'm going anywhere, it probably would be LeBron in this one at 10-1. Looked like a different man in that last game, really took over, shot 13 and 19. Now, the ancillary stats weren't there. So as good as he played, he didn't pay off that salary. But more often than not, I'm going to take the over on his, rebounds and assists around that, 12 range. So I have no problem looking at LeBron James in this one at 10-1. I think he's a great play. Going back to the well with Malik Monk, he's getting a little price range increase right here. He was down at 4,400 in that last game. Again, short slate. Normally, I wouldn't be looking at Monk so much at 4,700. But on a 3-game slate, when you're trying to find a little bit of decent value, somebody that probably won't draw a lot of ownership simply because of the price increase, he's more often than not, he's probably going to see, the mid to high 20s. And yes, Avery Bradley's back, but I have a feeling this just suits up for him well. Coming off the bench, going against the secondary unit that's a little battered and tattered right now with Kyle Anderson and a few of these other guys being out, which I didn't even mention the Grizzlies injury report. It's because we don't have it. So Kyle Anderson most likely is sitting. Brandon Clark will probably most likely miss another one as well. So I think Monk in the secondary unit, very decent option. And as much as I hate Carmelo Anthony, having one of these bench scorers, I think for the Lakers, one of these guys are probably going to have a great game. So I don't mind taking stabs at those two guys and then pairing it with a little bit of LeBron. If you wanted to play Davis, I wouldn't fault you, but it's no Westbrook for me.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much got it on there. Of those 3 guys in the same kind of price range, my tier of trusting is usually Anthony Davis and then LeBron, but honestly, Anthony Davis has been just really weird to me. He doesn't get aggressive enough, and it seems like LeBron has come back at this point with his abdominal injury and just really looking to get the Lakers back on track, really look for a lot more of his shot, which is why you're seeing him get into that 20 shot attempts a lot more consistently, whereas usually he'd be more looking to get the dimes going. So we saw that in the Boston game. It was a blowout. Otherwise, he would probably have dropped another 50, and he's been on a great tear. So he's definitely the stud of my choice of those three guys. And then, as you said, I mean, Malik Monk is a great option out there. I'm kind of half interested in to see how many minutes Dwight Howard ends up playing as well in this game. But again, that's more of an aside. It's really just LeBron and Malik Monk. But as far as Memphis is concerned, I mean, first and foremost, you already know my love for Jaren Jackson on here, but it's just a great matchup for him to be able to exploit. First and foremost, the Lakers are really bad perimeter defensively. I think last I checked, they were 25th or 24th in opponent 3 points given as well as attempted. So just a great opportunity for Jaren Jackson to be able to stretch out a guy like Anthony Davis, really pull him out there, force him to be the one that gets defended. And if that doesn't happen, then he's going to get that opportunity to be able to put up a lot of shots, with confidence. As I said, for him, it's all about shot attempts and getting those up consistently. Even tonight, he's going 7 of 16 against your Mavs right now and having a great game. So it's just one of those things where as long as he stays out of foul trouble, he's always going to be a pick of mine. Until he gets to 8,000, honestly, I find myself playing him most nights. Even if it doesn't happen to pay off on, let's say, 2 out of those nights, you'll have the opportunity for him to be able to hit that mid 40s every time. So I'm happy taking him. And as long as I know that Kyle Anderson's out, again, go back to either the well with DeAnthony Melton, but more so than that, with Brandon Clark out, I really like going to the well with Steven Adams, who's had 2 really solid games as far as minutes are concerned. And even right now against the Mavs, he's about to put up a low-end double-double as well. So it's just one of those, we talked about tiers of big men to be able to take. I know you wanted to avoid Rudy Gobert or any of those as your top tier. If you're looking at a mid-tier guy, Steven Adams is someone who may be of interest, and against potentially a Dwight Howard matchup or a DeAndre Jordan to get up against him, he may get himself into that low to mid 20 minutes again, and that should be able to pay it off.
I'm right there with you. He's probably one of my favorite center options outside of Jokic on this slate. I just don't sign. There's no real value tier for center, in my opinion. There's no guy under 5K that I have a lot of interest in. So I think he is the value option at center if you wanted to feel comfortable outside of, maybe an option where you could sign somebody that's a power forward position in there. But for the most part, Steven Adams, you're right there. Minutes are up going against a Lakers team where, I mean, in this matchup, it wouldn't shock me if Dwight starts, but who knows what Frank Vogel's doing at this point. They're mixing and matching that starting lineup so much. Either way, I think Steven Adams at 5,100, great option. Melton's in play for me at 46. Fantastic option with all that bench usage he's going to have. If you wanted to take a dart throw on a guy, you're desperate, you need the value. Maybe a guy like John Conchar. When Kyle Anderson's out, he just simply gets a little bit more minutes playing the 3. So another guy I think we could take a look at. It's also worth noting that it is a back-to-back for this Grizzlies team. Dillon Brooks, he's healthy now, but we've seen him have his own injury problems starting the season late. Maybe they limit him a little bit on this back-to-back. Not exactly 100% certain on that, and I have no evidence to back it up. But I believe this is going to be one of his first back-to-backs since actually returning from the injury. So it's something worth noting as well that if he were to sit Melton, Conchar, both those guys would get major boosts, I think, as well. So those are the 3 guys I'm primarily looking at. I wouldn't fault you for going with a Dillon Brooks, but nothing more than a GPP. And again, I just don't know if I fully trust those minutes on the back-to-back. But we have 1 game remaining. Before we get to it, quick shout-out to Manscaped. Guys, head over to manscaped.com. Use that promo code HoopBall20 to get 20% off plus free shipping on your first purchase. And that's an entire order. You can fill that shopping cart with as much as you want. Get your gifts. Get them for the holidays. Get them for yourself, which I highly recommend, including the Lawnmower 4.0 and that Perfect Package kit, guys. So head over to manscaped.com and use that promo code HoopBall20. 1 game left, my friend. It is the Denver Nuggets traveling to San Antonio. Denver on the second end of a back-to-back as well. San Antonio has 5 games this week, so they are going to be feeling it nonetheless. For the Spurs, it looks like Keldon Johnson is doubtful after that ankle sprain. He returned. He tried to play through it, ended up leaving again. So he's most likely sitting out of this one. Outside of that, Zach Collins remains out. Devin Vassell is also doubtful as well. So no game total right now, no spread. Pass it over to you. I'll let you take the Nuggies here. What are you looking at?
Yeah, man. This matchup is first and foremost been one of the more fun ones this season. If we saw the one earlier in the year where they won 102-96, it was Jokic just putting up an absolute masterclass to show exactly why he still wants to be in the MVP running, dropped 70 DK points in that game. And it's just a matchup that's been awesome for him. Like Jakob Poeltl, as good as and solid as he can be, he just doesn't have I would say, the wherewithal to be able to stay in front of a guy like Nikola Jokic, and he just gets the opportunities to be able to put up a lot of points and a lot of offensive rebounds as well, just because he's able to read Pirtle a lot off the misses. So, we talked about the studs out there on a back-to-back. Jokic is probably one of the guys I'm absolutely okay to trust. His price tag has actually come down a little bit, down to that 11,800 versus the 12 grand that he had against Chicago, which happily paid off, dropped 62 in that game as well. So he's just been on an absolute tear as of late, even if his shooting isn't necessarily, lighting up the world. 6 of 17 in that game, hit just about 50% in this game as well. He just has so much opportunity in a game, as we don't have the game total for yet, but I expect to have a pretty close spread. Spurs at home are usually pretty pesky, even though they may not be the most talented squad at this point. But between Jokic and between Will Barton, I really like both their opportunities to be able to put up some pretty big numbers in this game. And then beyond that, if we're looking down into a little bit of value, I'm interested to see how much Bones Highland gets an opportunity to keep going. I mean, it's clear that the Nuggets like him, that they believe in him, and he's coming off his injury. So we'll have to find out exactly what they decide to do. But it's just one of those things where I think he is going to end up eventually playing more minutes than to Campazzo. But it seems Campazzo at the moment is the player of choice to be able to come off the bench right away. So it's between as a GPP pivot between Campazzo and Bones Highland, you might actually find some decent value as one of those dart throws at the end.
Yeah, especially knowing that Will Barton was pretty questionable coming into tonight's game. And I think Highland was actually just in health and safety protocols. I believe he was one of those guys that was lumped in there with like Rivers and a few of these other guys. But I could be wrong. I think it was health and safety protocols, and I don't believe he actually had COVID. So I would expect him to probably get some significant burn, especially if we see that Will Barton sits out, with it being a back-to-back. So I'm with you. I think Jokic is top option on the slate, not even close. Definitely don't mind spending up on him. Outside of him, I'm probably not going to be playing Barton. I don't think I'll be playing too much Aaron Gordon as either. Jeff Green at 4,800, I think is a solid option. Again, 3-game slate, your options are limited, so there's worse you can do. And then I think taking a stab at one of those guards, like you said, Campazzo or Highland, pick your poison. They're both in play. They're both solid options. Probably rather lean Highland just because he has more of a little scoring upside. You're really relying on Campazzo to rack up the assists and then rack up some of those steals. And in the games that he was doing that, I believe Highland was out. So probably rather lean a little bit more Bones. But sliding over to the Spurs side of the ball, got a couple options I'm looking at here with Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson all but ruled out. I think that gives us solid opportunity for a value player like Keita Bates-Diop. Now, he's not a great point per minute producer or anything like that, but if he ends up playing 25 to 30 minutes at 3,300, he'll probably end up being one of the chalkier value plays on the slate. So I don't mind looking at him. I expect him to draw that start. Lonnie Walker would probably end up being one of those other guys that gets a little bit of a boost at 3,700. So both those guys, decent value plays to look at. And it wouldn't even shock me if in this matchup we end up seeing a little bit more Thad Young. With Keldon out, Keldon plays a lot of the 4 for them. They can easily slide Diop in there. I mean, Thad Young, the only thing that keeps me in doubt with him is his negative comments that he said and how he basically just wants off this team. He's not being utilized. So Pop could just end up making him kiss the pine. It's always worth noting. I just don't fully trust it. But not a ton of interest necessarily on the Spurs. I think for the first time in my life, I might be leaning a little bit more Derek White over DeJounte Murray in this game.
Yes.
That doesn't. Yeah, I know you're starting to rub off on me a little bit. But White played well in this matchup earlier in the season. He's been on a nice little cooker over the past week and a half or so. So I think I rather would play White. And I know at the end of the day, I'm going to want to spend up on Jokic. And if I have any hope of paying for anybody else, it's going to be LeBron over Murray for me. I think I prefer Mitchell over Murray as well. So I think he's probably playing 4th fiddle. Maybe even 5th fiddle behind Anthony Davis as well. So just don't see myself having too much Murray. And if I want to get some exposure to this game, it's probably going to be with Derek White or one of those value plays. And, I think Doug McDermott's probably going to draw some decent ownership. At 4,200, you can easily pay that off. He just doesn't have all that upside. So if you have the leftover money and you want to just upgrade from one of those other value plays like either Bryn Forbes or, Keita Bates-Diop, and you have this leftover spend it, sure. But if you're looking to get that extra cash and use it elsewhere, I think I'd rather just take the value plays over him.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head really pretty much across the board. Dejounte Murray is just priced at a point where, given I could take LeBron James for $400 more, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up leaning towards something like that. He's probably my favorite of that 10K-ish range. But yeah, Derek White, just again, one, the shooting guard eligibility, two, it's just all about him being able to get his shots up and get it up with confidence, and the fact that he is now at this point consistently getting somewhere close to 18 shots a game versus early on in the season where he was just being passive. It was just a matter of him getting his own game going and his confidence and his role going as far as the Spurs were concerned. So, I mean, we've seen the upside with Derek White before. I think he's getting back into it. He's got a pretty good matchup over here against a number of relatively undersized guards on the other side, and he's always been that little bit bigger than the guys that are there. So I could expect him to have that little bit more usage, maybe a couple more boards as a result of it. But 6,300, just a great spot. Given I'm likely spending up on one of those other studs, you're going to have the opportunity to get some exposure with him. And I was thinking about Thad Young as well, but at the same time, I was actually thinking that Bryn Forbes may be the one that gets a little bit more run with Keldon Johnson out. They just like him being able to stretch the floor out. Pop has loved him always. It's just one of those where he likes to start him even. I mean, I'm not saying that he's necessarily going to start in this game, but he always ends up finding that 20, 25 minutes roll, and if he gets his shot going, you can usually see him pay off his value pretty early as he hits 2, 3, or 4 threes pretty quickly.
I'm just so shocked that we went through this entire podcast and you almost completed the Harris trifecta, which is, mentioning Jaren Jackson Jr., Derek White, but you missed Matisse Thybulle. You didn't say him, which I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But if we had Matisse Thybulle mentioned from you, man, it was the Harris trifecta in full effect right there. No, but I think you said it perfectly fine. Yeah, I agree. Like I think we're pretty much in agreement on this Spurs team. Is that something we need to be worried about? Well, if we both like Derek White on the same slate, does that mean we should create the pivot right now, or just ride it out?
Is that the Murray effect now? It's going to move on to the White? Yeah.
It could. But that brings us home. That's all 3 games. So we'll jump right into our player tier segment. I'll let you start. Expensive tier. Who are you going with?
Yeah, and much as I said, Nikola Jokic is just the best straight-up option, regardless of position, regardless of salary in this entire slate. It's just a matter of how good and how high he can go, and the fact that he's now below 12,000 just makes him a no-brainer for me in a matchup where he's going to get the better of Poeltl. He always gets the better of Poeltl, and they don't have enough size otherwise to be able to really bother him. So he's got all the opportunity to be able to put up another massive night on a back-to-back. I'm not super worried, and the fact that he dropped 70 on him last time on very, very similar personnel on the other side, I expect another really big game here for him.
Then I'll go with my man LeBron James over there. Both like those guys. I think they're both fantastic options. I think it's actually even a slate where you could probably get away with playing 2 studs, just because I think raw points are going to really, really matter on this slate. And if you hit the value in the right spots, you'll have no issue doing that. Just need to make sure that that value pays off. And we'll slide over to the mid-tier. Who are you looking at? I wonder.
We really got to finalize the White effect. Guys. But yes, Derek White, 6,300. Just go back 5 minutes to everything I said. He's the guy you want. He's always pretty much my favorite guard on the Spurs, just to watch in real life as well. But yeah, it's just a great matchup for him. He's got his confidence back. He's going to shoot somewhere near 18 to 20 shots a game, and that's more than enough with his ancillary stats to pay off his value. Somewhere probably closer into the 7,000s is where I actually think he should be, and we'll see him get there.
I'll roll with Steven Adams at 5,100, right over that threshold. So I do like Steven Adams. Just been playing really good ball with Brandon Clark out. It's all about the minutes for Steven Adams. Never expecting those 20 and 20 games. He doesn't have the capability of putting those up. But at 5,100, if he can give us, even if it's 12 and 10 with he's actually been good for a few assists this season. Chips in a couple of those with a steal and a block. All of a sudden, you're looking at 30 DK points at 5,100. We'll take that all day. And who is your favorite value play?
Yeah, at 4,700, it would be Malik Monk. Just, again, one of those guys that just needs to get a shot going to have everything else go. He's getting the opportunity on a Lakers team that really, really need his offense. He's hit 12 threes in his last 3 games at this point, and has just been shooting absolutely lights out. He's going to be needed. It's going to be a fast-paced matchup. We'll see when the totals come out, but my guess is that the Lakers-Memphis game will be the highest total game of the night. So just all the opportunity for him to be able to hit that value and give you a little bit more upside.
Can't argue with it. I'll probably lean with who I think is going to start in place of Keldon Johnson, who would be Keita Bates-Diop. at 3,300. Again, doesn't have the highest ceiling. We've seen him have a couple 25 DK point games this season. When given the minutes, more or less, you're probably looking at a floor of anywhere between 14, 15, and a ceiling of right around that 25 mark. But if he can get us somewhere in the middle, I'll take that all day long. At 3,300, I think the value is going to be important. You're going to need it. And on a 3-game slate, he's not going to really burn you. Even if he puts you up 15, you could still cash out with that. You'll be okay with that. And now that brings us to our new segment, which I'm very happy to announce through the partnership with Thrive Fantasy, is our favorite prop player bet of the night over on Thrive Fantasy. So I had one I kind of alluded to earlier plenty of times, and that is the under on Joel Embiid's points plus rebounds going against this Utah team. It's set at 40.5 right now, which essentially to me that says, okay, 30 and 10. Dice it up however way you want it, 25-15. Going against Rudy Gobert, I will take the under on those points and rebounds.
Awesome. And I'm going to be a little bonus on here where I think there's two that I feel pretty good about. First and foremost, it's the Rudy Gobert over on 14.5 rebounds. I think it's going to be a game that, much like the last one where we had 17 or 18 boards on him, it's going to be a high board game. He's going to play 38 to 39 minutes, giving him all the opportunity to be able to do that. And that's a potential 110 points you can get on that. So it's one of the, quote unquote, riskier options. And in that same vein, Jaren Jackson Jr., 17.5 total. I expect him to go over that on, again, a very high-scoring Lakers and Memphis game where he is going to be the first option. He is going to get somewhere close to 20 shots in the game, and he's just starting to get fully in the rhythm of his offense, having a great night tonight. I expect him to back up on that and have another one against the Lakers, a team that really will have to struggle to defend him when he's outstretched at the three-point line.
Look at that. The bonus in good picks. Yeah, we need those extra points too. So just taking, the favorite in the bet isn't gonna win you money every single time. You got to have a couple trickies in there. So I do like both of those. So again, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. As always, whether you're new, whether you've been doing it for a long time, give us a follow on Twitter. You can find me at Mike Apotria. That is MikeApotria. Harris, you know what to do.
Absolutely. You can catch me on Twitter at HAK_Devil, DEVIL, where much like Freddie tonight, I'm going to hit you in the face with some hot takes as well. So just get on there, but don't expect a whistle to come.
You think the refs go back and they look at it and they're like, yep, that was a foul that we missed. And
yeah, we're going to see that 2-minute report. That's every time that we get, oh, yeah, we missed it, but it doesn't actually mean anything. And the OKC game always makes it funny for me because there's a very infamous game where Westbrook was on the Thunder, and it was just an absolute garbage night as far as the refs were concerned, and they needed security presence to help him out from the Raptors fans because they were all throwing stuff at him. So it's just been a thing for a while now.
So make sure you're following Harris on Twitter. That way you can see him spaz out about that 2-minute report when it does come out. Basically prints it out and sends it to Silver. But give us a thumbs up, 5-star, wherever you listen to this. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, wherever you may listen. YouTube, we're all over the place. So we really do appreciate it. All those that come in, we see them. We take note. We try to improve. So let us know what you think. Thumbs up, 5-star. And we will be back tomorrow. It will be Santino and Mr. David Menkoff. They'll be crushing that Friday slate for you guys. So thank you for listening. Thank you for Thrive Fantasy. Manscaped, shout out to both of them. And we'll be back. We'll be crushing some tournaments. Nice little 3-game slate. Take care. Let's go win some money.
Do you love what you do? Work at Saia LTL Freight, and you will. We've been the most elite team in shipping for 95 years and counting by caring for our people like family. So whether you're on the docks or in the driver's seat, when you put on our uniform, you're joining a first-class tradition of excellence. Start your new journey with us today. Visit workatsaia.com now. That's workatsaia.com.
Amazon is changing the way we think about TVs. Say hello to the Amazon Fire TV Omni Series, a new 4K ultra-high-definition smart TV with Dolby Vision and hands-free Alexa. This is Amazon's first hands-free TV with all your favorite Fire TV and Alexa features now in one TV. You can stream all of your favorite content, shows, music, and more. The Amazon Fire TV Omni series is available in a variety of sizes and competitive prices in store at Best Buy or at Amazon.com.